Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. We are going to shift gears just a little bit and hit our AI segment of the week. Yes, AI is a hot topic. I am fielding your questions and I have got them ready to ask to our resident expert, Dr. Alan Badeau, who is a fellow host of a television show all about AI and has been moving and shaking the space for decades. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Jen. It's great to be here.
So this week, the hot topic of discussion is how do we leverage our most valuable asset? And guess what? It's our data. So we've been fielding questions about what is the role of data in our AI implementation? What needs to happen with regards to this for successful implementation? So can you speak a little bit to the importance of data collection, management, governance, so that we can be successful with an AI integration?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it is a fundamental issue that everybody has, whether it's a government agency, a big government agency, or all the way down to a small business. Just because you have a lot of data doesn't mean it's any good. That's the easiest way to look at it. There are ways that you can make sure that the data that you're collecting is going to be relevant. It's going to solve your problem. You're going to be able to use AI to train your models and facilitate and get the kind of decisions and recommendations from the AI that you're actually looking for. And it's a problem that has really been around since we started collecting information. You think that, the more data that you have, the better that your models are going to be. That would be true if you're trying to build a large language model from scratch. But if you really want it to solve a specific problem that you have to focus in on the type of data that's relevant, how you're storing it, how you're putting metadata and collecting the metadata around it, and really just taking a step back and looking at those fundamental principles that say, this is what my data life cycle is going to look like. This is how I'm going to acquire it. This is how I'm going to store it. This is how I'm going to manage it. This is how I'm going to use it to solve my problem. And this is how I'm going to use it to get out the word and get the information out there. And if you don't have a process to do that, then, more likely than not, when you use AI, it's going to make it worse.
Right, because what you're doing is you're accelerating impaired processes or outdated.
That's right. You're accelerating a bad decision. You're going to make bad decisions faster.
That's nothing that we want. So can we break that down just a little more? Because I work with entrepreneurs from super small businesses all the way up to larger enterprises. And it's common when we start out to just save everything. And there's duplications and there's old processes. There's like all of this noise. I'm going to call it data noise. That's no longer relevant to our business, or we're no longer up to date, or it's really bad data because we've completely shifted what we're doing. So can you speak to how do we start that process so that we can dial in our process for data collection, our process for data management? If we've been in operating for years and we've never addressed this, and we have a Google Drive with every kind of data known to man that's not structured, like how do we start? What are the starting points for? Let's take it from a small business, and then we'll kind of go through the process.
Yeah, and I'll give an example that folks can actually go watch if they want to. I don't know if you've seen Dodgeball, Jen, but I love that movie. Reminds me of when I was a kid and played dodgeball all the time. If folks remember when Peter was getting audited, he opens his closet and it's filled to the ceiling with receipts, and he calls them keepers. Well, we have a lot of digital keepers. Just because you can store it, just because you can keep it, just because you're scared that you might need it someday. Oh my goodness, that is not the right approach. What you have to do, the same thing that you do with software development, the same thing that you do with product development. Start with the problem first. Identify what you are trying to solve. What do you want to help your business with? What do you want to help your customers with? That's where you have to start. And then you build around that. You start to pick your AI that you want to use. Then you start to pick the data that you want to collect. Then you start to pick how you want to put them together and what the end result is going to be. And then if you can't figure out what your messages are going to be to your employees, your users, or your consumers, then you got to start over. And so you have to look at data the same way that you look at every other aspect of your business, whether it's marketing, whether it's, like I said, product development, it doesn't matter. You have to have a process. You have to make sure the data aligns to the process. And then you have to make sure that you're going to use it, the right way. Otherwise, you're just going to have a circle or a cycle of bad decisions. And then you're going to say, well, what's wrong with my data? Well, it's not the data, it's the process. You chose wrong.
Well, there's a bunch of different data points that we look at as entrepreneurs, and we can utilize and leverage that data in different ways to tell different stories, whether we're looking at it from a cost of client acquisition, or we're looking at it from a profitability set. Like, there's a whole lot of different ways we can even look at the same set of data. So I really like this. And I just want to emphasize this to everyone who's listening. Identify the problem first. We had an entire segment on this. What is the problem you're trying to solve, whether it's for your employees, whether it's for your customers, in your business, for your decision-making process? What is the problem? Which AI are you going to leverage? What data are you going to collect that's going to be relevant? And we're doing business strategy. So what's relevant to where you're going, not what's relevant 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
That's
what's relevant to the direction you're going. How are you going to put it together? And what do you want success to look like? And I cannot emphasize that enough. I'm so glad you said, what will the end result be? Because if we don't know what success looks like, with any integration, whether it's a new hire, whether it's an AI integration, we're going to fail. We don't know what success looks like. We're not going to have the right KPIs. And so let me ask you, Alan, you've done this in so many different sectors with so many different people. What is the number one mistake people make, and how can we avoid making that mistake when we look at an AI integration?
Well, I wish I could say that it's a easy thing to avoid, but we continue to really step in it when we start to try to operationalize these AI technologies. The first, really the biggest one is that they fundamentally believe that they have so much data that it doesn't matter the kind of AI that they're going to use, that their data is going to apply. The reality is if you try to use large language models to do certain things, it's going to fail. It's going to give you an answer. It's going to be wrong. You've trained it with your data, so it should give you a better answer. Well, all you have done is train a worse model to give you a, like we said earlier, a bad decision a lot faster. And so people forget that you have to have a data strategy that goes along with your AI strategy, that goes along with your corporate strategy. These tools are not like, Word. They're not like, a standard product where you can just type in something and it goes off on its own. Folks need to look at your data strategy and your AI strategy as living and breathing entities that your employees or your customers are going to interact with. And they're going to interact with them at a layer that you can't get from some of these other tools. And unless you understand that and embrace that, then you're not going to be able to have that end goal in mind. And that's really an unfortunate thing, because it's such an opportunity for products, for small businesses to really take advantage of that layer that is missing. And from my perspective, using it to build out that relationship is so important. And like everything else, we sometimes will develop the greatest product in the world that nobody will be able to use or want to use, but it's a great product. Well, AI can help facilitate that, but if you don't have the right data to do that, that is a big problem. One of the things I encourage folks to do, if you're not sure what kind of data to use, ask the AI. Ask a large language model. I want to do this. I want to try to give my customers this. I want them to have this kind of experience. What kind of data in my business should I be using? What should I be collecting? It's going to give you a head start. It might not be 100% right, but it's going to give you a head start. use the tools that are out there to do these kind of things, and you can get an advantage a lot quicker. And don't be afraid you're going to make a mistake. I do it all the time. Just start over. That's the great thing about it.
I really enjoyed this conversation, Alan. It's so right. Leverage the tools, ask, find the consultants such as yourself to help you with this process. And so how can people reach out to you if they would like to learn more?
I get emails all the time from alanbadeau.ai. They can find me on the Now Media on my AI Today TV show. I get a lot of questions and comments. I love those though too because I will respond as best I can. Doesn't cost anything either, so more than happy to help anywhere I can. And of course, LinkedIn. I am I have my beacon of LinkedIn light with you, Jen, and that's what I'm trying to get to. And so that's another easy way to get a hold of me.
Fantastic. Thank you for your expertise. I really appreciate you.
Yep, thank you.
And you, yes, unfortunately, we do have to take a quick break, but I hope that you utilize this time to consider what is it that I really want and how do I want to leverage this tool? And as Alan said, go to your GPT or large language model and say, hey, look, what kind of data do I need to collect to make this successful? We will see you in just a few moments.